Hello everybody, this is Rekatan and you are watching RekStarcraft. This is actually my first cast ever. I have not even done any trial run-throughs, so apologies if it's kind of a little newbie, but I'll get the kinks worked out over the next few weeks and hopefully have some solid quality here after a while. So we will be starting out with a game that was submitted by Sosweet, and it is Sosweet, who is a 1050 diamond, versus nGsSojU, who is a about 2000 diamond. Alright, so the first thing you're going to be noticing here that's a little different is we're going to be watching this from Sosweet's perspective. The reason for that is I notice when I watch a lot of casts that they tend to get a bird's eye view, and that kind of skews their perspective of what's going on. And given that I'm trying to kind of give an informational cast here with a lot of instructions and a lot of teaching behind it, I think it would be a lot better if we could all watch from the submitter's perspective and hopefully learn a little more than if we had a bird's eye view and knew what was coming. So that said, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I guess I should preface I'm doing things a little differently overall in that I'm having people submit losses only. Because I want this to exclusively be something where people can learn from other people's mistakes and learn from their own mistakes. So spoiler alert, Sosweet loses. I already spoiled that for you, so that's not a great spoiler alert. Anyways, let's go ahead and get this rolling, and we'll see how it goes. And actually, Sosweet, I have never seen him play, but he's on the forums all the time. He's been in my Q&A thread quite a few times, so he's always been real good, always asked for a lot of help, and that's actually why I picked this. A little bit of favoritism, but it's just, he's always, I guess I've probably seen him on there for the last 2 months straight, so it's kind of like, well, you know, he seems like a good guy. Let's get it started with him. Not a lot to talk about early on, so I'm going to go ahead and answer the question that he attached to this, which is, when I lose a game, I feel terribad. What's your advice to beginners like myself for dealing with the losses to come? And that's a really good question. It's one of the toughest things about StarCraft is you have so much intensity going on. You have so much at stake, or so it feels like, that, you know, almost your self-esteem gets wrapped up in every single game. And you know, you can say what you want, you know, you can call people a loser for wrapping up their self-esteem in a game or whatever, but that's just the nature of anyone who's competitive. How to deal with it? Honestly, it takes practice, and it takes reminding yourself that it's just a game. You're playing to have fun, you're playing to get better, and part of getting better is losing. So don't let it get you down, and above all, don't go on tilt. It's a poker term, basically means you get a bad beat and then you keep playing bad hands, and eventually you're out of chips. The problem with going tilt in StarCraft is you don't run out of chips. So if you feel yourself going on tilt, take a break. Take a day break, 2 days break, whatever it takes. Okay, so we are starting to get something going on, so that is about it for me rambling. Okay, so a little analysis, I suppose, is good. The extractor was too soon. In my opinion, there is very few times you want to go extractor first against Protoss, but above all, he is not saturating it. So if you're going to go extractor first, which I have done from time to time, it's I guess a bit of a July Zerg build. Actually, I think he goes pool first, but then immediately after gets extractor. But if you're going to get a quick extractor, then make sure you saturate it quickly. Otherwise, you're not capitalizing on that lost drone. Okay, we've got a supply block here at 17, and just a little trick for this. He's at 17 out of 18. He's waiting on this queen. Go ahead and extractor trick that queen out. It's going to give you an extra 20 seconds or so on that queen, and that can make a pretty big difference. So if you do supply block yourself at 17, which you should try to avoid, you can go ahead and correct that with an extractor trick just to keep that queen coming out. Okay, at this point, we're seeing 3 gateways coming up already. This says everything. Warp gate tech is not even starting, and this pretty well tells you 100% beyond a shadow of a doubt that this hatchery should not be going down. The advantage of him going extractor first and then pool is he can make decisions like that. And the fact that he saw this says he actually should not be expanding right now, believe it or not. I would never tell a Zerg to not expand typically, but this is a very strange build we're seeing from nGsSojU, and in this case he wants to go ahead and just get, you know, enough lings out to contain and then expand. It's kind of strange because I haven't seen this build before. I don't know quite what to think of it because the gates are going down so damn early. Okay, and no surprise here. The Zealots are coming out, and this is going to be kind of like a very, very all-in 4-gate. But with those early gates, we're probably going to see almost exclusively Zealots with a few Stalkers behind him, and he's just going to try to punish what he thought was a fast expand, what Soju thought was a fast expand. And he's kind of just playing the metagame a bit, you know, expected maybe a 14 hatch, 14 pool. Now, you would think Sosweet's opening would be strong in that case, but we'll see how that turns out because we do know he did lose the game. Okay, so here we see the transfer, or the Maynard, I guess, and this is where I think Sosweet's going wrong. He sees the quick gates. He hasn't confirmed it's 4-gate, but you can put good money on it being 4-gate at this point. There needs to be spines going down. Right now, there needs to be no less than 2. He needs to have Zerglings outside Soju's base, and he needs to be then confirming what's the army strength looking like. If it's, you know, 10 Zealots already, and a few Stalkers, then he needs to have 4 spines out, 5 spines out. And yep, that's about what we see. So at this point, there should be 1, 2, 3 spines, something to that degree. Maybe even a spine up here that he can then lift and move over to the ramp when the creep has extended. And here comes the spines, but they're just, it's too little too late at this point. So this is going to probably end very quickly. We see a little bit of scouting up here. This is great Overlord placement here. Always place your Overlord at this location on Zelnaga Caverns. And let's just keep an eye out for the micro. Great job sniping that sentry. Well managed there. My volume is a little high, but I'm keeping myself alive. And okay, that's a hard counter right there. That's all it takes. Too many Zealots against too few Zerglings. And generally you don't want to go Zergling versus Zealot anyways. That's kind of the end of that. Okay. So what I would have liked to have seen from Sosweet here is, since he did already commit to the extractor and pool before hatchery, go ahead and try to capitalize on that. The reason why July Zerg can pull off a goofy build like that is because he pressures a lot. He gets up in their grill, literally. He gets... yeah, I'm a white guy saying up in their grill. Deal with it. He gets up to the gateway, he pressures it, and he forces this Zealot that's part of the wall to go ahead and pull off, and sometimes even gets a run by. Things like that can do a lot to throw off your opponent's build. But instead, he opened pool and extractor first, and then he expanded with very little behind him. So he had the vulnerability of a 14 hatch, 14 pool, but it was as slow as a what looked like 14 extractor, 14 pool. So make sure you're playing deliberately, Sosweet, and anyone who's watching. Make sure that if you're going to go something a bit rogue like 14 extractor, 14 pool, you know why you're going that build. I do use this from time to time, but like I said, I use it very differently in a fashion like we saw July Zerg use in the last couple GSLs. I guess it was only Season 3. The reason I'm using him as an example so much is because it's the only case I've seen that recently, but he did use it very well, July did. Okay, so let's just take a quick look now that the game is over at where things were at. Indeed, it was a 4-gate, and it was an all-in 4-gate. No intention of expanding whatsoever. So what this meant was spines. If this hatchery had gone up sooner, he would have a much stronger creep spread. And so I would say he can probably have spine here, 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 and here. Those 4 spines will shut down this aggression, as long as, obviously there's a reasonable number of speedlings in conjunction and the queens have been pulled to defend. That is kind of the end of that. I hope this helps, Sosweet. This is a very typical build. The gateways were very early going up. So it was a little strange in that sense, but nevertheless the timing itself was very, very standard. So get a grasp of how you beat this in terms of when do I place spines. That's really what it depends on. Aside from that, I do want to go back to one critical point that I didn't quite have time to talk about. And I want to watch it with full vision now. Okay, this right here, this is crucial. Had a Zergling been outside of this base, which pool's done, no reason for them to not be there. In fact, they're up here, so he does eventually get vision, but he gets it too late. Keep a Zergling outside their choke. You're going to hear me say this a million times over. By having that Zergling outside their choke, you're going to have such a better response time. And that really is what it amounts to. This travel distance in Xel'Naga is pretty reasonable. It's not quite enough time to get a spine up completely, but the spine will be about 80% by the time a Zealot leaves this choke and reaches the natural. And so, you know, obviously the hatch isn't up, so that's not an option in this case. But nevertheless, keep a Zergling outside of that choke. I cannot stress it enough. There's just so many educated decisions you're going to be making with that. So that is about it. I'm going to try and cast a couple more today if I have time. Get all the kinks worked out and get myself a little more comfortable with it. Oh, if you have any questions, comments, feel free. If you would like to send a replay for casting, feel free to email it to the email that I will attach in the comments. And I will also leave some instructions for how you can make sure your replay gets cast. Basically some things like, you know, I don't want to see something where you're a bronze player getting stomped by a 3000 diamond. It's just, there's not going to be too many teachable moments there because it's just such a skill gap. So, aside from that, that's about it. Thanks for watching, and Sosweet, thank you so much for submitting this. It takes a lot to submit a hard loss like this and have everybody see it, so I appreciate that you had the balls to do that. Alright, thanks. Bye.